Welcome back to Let's Play Super Metroid. Today we're going to be heading off into the depths of Brinstar since we just started the game. And yeah, I figured I'd just go and tackle the mini-boss later, seeing as it is a bit out of the way, and since we'll be revisiting Brinstar later on anyway, why not, right? So yeah, think of this as a KenMeister version of the playthrough, I guess, or just any other Super Metroid playthrough you'd see anywhere else on YouTube. I don't know what I'm doing with this Let's Play. I'm just kind of thinking up stuff as I go. And it's like I'm making this harder than it needs to be, but maybe I'll calm down in the middle of this playthrough. Who knows? So, yeah, Brinstar is certainly looking a bit different than it did in the original Metroid. In Metroid 1, it was all rocky and blue and shit. Here, it's like a mixture of vegetation and also just like dead, dead plant life. It's really bizarre, and it's again just kind of emphasizing that creepy, like atmosphere of Super Metroid that Metroid 1 didn't convey all too well. Metroid 1 never really did come off to me as a big exploration, well, not an exploration, but a big atmosphere-heavy game. I don't really think those roots were established until Metroid 2, but lo and behold, we are seeing that concept being further expanded upon in this game. But we're not going to be in Brintstar for too long because I am heading straight to Kraid, and seeing as I just pulled off an awesome sequence break earlier on, I figured I'd let that confidence carry over into getting into Kraid's lair early as well. Whether or not I'll be able to pull that off consistently, I don't really know because it requires a different trick and tactic altogether. Also, I am getting hit far too often. I'm not gonna lie though, one of the nitpicks I have with Super Metroid is that I never did like the firing rate for the beam in this game. Like, the beam, I feel like fires much slower than it does in, like, the other 2D Metroid games, and, unless I have a missile out, it makes getting rid of larger enemies more of a chore than it needs to be, I feel like. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's like, I don't know. Like, the beam in general, outside of the plasma beam, which is super ridiculously powerful, I feel like the beams were super toned down in this game, probably because this was the first game that introduced the charge beam and they weren't sure how to scale the beam balance and what have you. And yeah, there were just so many different sides of Brinstar apparently. We went from a rocky sector to a vegetation sector to a red soil-like area. Brinstar has so many things going on, it's so goddamn ridiculous. Uh, this here is actually my favorite piece of music within Super Metroid. This is, without a doubt, my favorite track in the entire game. I absolutely love it! I love this track to pieces, and I love the remix it has in Prime 2 even more. I screwed that up. Can I... Oh, Jesus. Oh, just... I am fidgeting today. I guess that confidence isn't going to last long, apparently. Oh, boy. I can see where the results of this playthrough is going to lead afterwards. So, already getting the Spazer right off the bat. I'm not even sure if the Spazer Beam is something that's meant to be got or obtained this early, or, like, if you're meant to have the high jump boots, like, what's the big deal behind it being located here, and was it intended to be reached by using wall jumping or not? I'm not entirely too sure. But regardless, we have a little extra firepower, and the more powerful, the better, as I'd like to think of it anyway. So, for this part here, normally we need the super boots or the high jump boots from Norfair. We have to take a quick detour into Norfair to get the high jump boots before heading into Kraid's lair. But I'm gonna see if I can pull this off. And I can! Awesome. We are just on a roll today. Normally I use the bomb jumping to get into there, but not today. Not today, apparently. So, I guess this is going to be somewhat of a show-offy, sequence breaky, somewhat kind of let's play or something. Again, I'm just making up things as I go. This playthrough wasn't planned in the way I thought it would be. I thought for a fact that I would mess up the moment we started the mock ball section, and look at how that turned out. So this playthrough is going to be a lot more different than I anticipated. But I love this track that we're listening to right now because it's just so goddamn creepy, but yet it's like there's a bit of ambience to it, you know? It's a very relaxing tune I'd like to listen to on like elevators or some shit, but also like you can't help but feel like you have like these chills going up your spine just listening to it, just in anticipation of whatever's going to happen next. But it's also quite sorrowful. I don't know, this piece of music in particular just sends off so many different vibes. It's hard for me to describe it, really. Alright. Get out of here. In case you were wondering, that was a baby Kraid we just killed off. And it actually kind of makes me wonder, you know, if we're not going by the Zero Mission timeline, if that baby Kraid was actually the same Kraid we fought back in Metroid 1. Or is that like a different entity entirely? I'm not too sure. Like maybe Kraid was planned to be tiny this whole time in Metroid without like it being so much of a console restriction, maybe? I don't really know. Anywho, it's time to fight one of our four main bosses. So, unlike Metroid 1, where we had, like, two different bosses we had to hunt down before making it over to the final area, the progression in Super Metroid works much like the way Metroid 1 did, in that we tagged down not one, but four different major bosses, and upon doing so, we gain access to the final area of the game. To my knowledge, there's no way of sequence breaking into that final area, so don't even try. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody finds out how to do that in the future. Oh hey, two super missiles at once. Wasn't expecting that combo. Look at me getting all cocky and shit, and, you know, speedrunners just looking at this being like, you know, I can just put you to shame in like 5 minutes right now. And you know what, that's probably true. I've seen like the numerous different speedruns that a lot of hardcore fans put into this game, much like, say for example, I think his name is Oats and Goats or something. And he's got the world record for Super Metroid currently. It's crazy to think that, you know, for a linear platformer, even stuff like movement can be really difficult too. Like there's like a very specific, like, technical precision for like just landing, so that way you can make sure you don't have like landing lag and you're able to just keep up speed as you're going along. There's just so many little intricacies in this game that like, I could never speedrun Super Metroid. Maybe Zero Mission or Metroid 2, which are games I had in consideration one of these days, if I can, stop talking so much smack and just get down to actually doing them. But, like, I just couldn't do Super Metroid. Shit like that requires, like, years of dedication. And even though I have played this game since... Frick, I think I first played this game when I was 10 or 12. I don't remember. I know Metroid 2 and Super Metroid, me experiencing both of those games happened around the same time period. My cousin owned it first, and then I found this for like $8 at a flea market. If you want to hear all about my time at the flea market, go back and watch my Metroid 2 playthrough. But to put it short, retro games back then were much cheaper than they are now. And it was definitely this part of the game, going through my cousin's copy of this, that like the game opens up significantly. Like, things are pretty straightforward for the most part. Like, the game kind of starts off, like, with you having, like, small paths leading over to, like, what other... Yeah, like, you have two different paths. You have one leading to an upgrade you might need, and then, like, another leading to the area you need that upgrade to open this path up for, And they're not too far apart, so it's pretty easy to see what you need ahead of time. Uh, the moment you get to Norfair, though, things are much more spread apart, and there's so many different paths you have to take and keep in consideration. My cousin couldn't beat this game. Like, he legitimately couldn't. And this is coming from the same guy who beat, like, Zero Mission and Fusion before playing this. I think I had to help him out, honestly, and I borrowed the game for a bit. I got lost in Norfair for the longest time after getting the Speed Booster. And I think I found some dumb shit, like using power bombs for the tube over there in Meridia, but like, just for the most part, I had to like really pay attention to like some of the past areas I've been through to make sure I had upgrades from which I got in Norfair before proceeding over to that area in Brinstar and then opening up a path there. And that's kind of how Super Metroid is so intricately designed, because you have to pay attention to just super tiny little details like that. And it's the main reason actually, why it's so easy to get lost in Super Metroid, because points you need upgrades for, or at the very least, what the game wants you to get upgrades for, rather, are much further spread apart than they would be in later Metroid games. In fact, we're going to be leaving Norfair like 2 or 3 times just to make sure we get upgrades from other areas before moving onwards into the depths of Norfair to go and fight Ridley. So, yeah. And if you don't like that kind of flow of gameplay, then you probably shouldn't be playing Super Metroid. The only other game I can think of that, accomplished this to the same extent is probably Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which I didn't even get to play until like 2 years ago, and that game is... Oh boy, that game is so awesome. It is a fantastic game, and if I ever get good at it one of these days, I will definitely consider a Let's Play of that, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself. And I'm not sure if there's many players or not who actually go through here and speedruns and use the Vario suit or not to like kind of tank it through the the super high heated areas of Norfair. Because I know in, Zero Mission and Prime 1 that's definitely possible, but with how fast your energy drains being in a hot area like that, It kind of makes me wonder if it'd be faster just to put on the Vario suit or not. Either that or these players have like stupidly um, precise like speed booster techniques they use to like get through these areas. I don't really know. Like I've watched, like small portions of these speed runs, but I've never watched like many of them the whole way through. Like I can watch a playthrough and kind of understand some intricacies, but I don't understand Super Metroid. Oh my god! I am on fire! Oh my god! Ken, you're on a roll today. Holy shit. That usually takes me like 10 attempts or something to go through, and I just nailed it in like one. Like, what the hell? So for those who don't already know, there are some enemies that you can only kill off with super missiles, and I'm using it for these seahorses here because they like to get in my way, and they piss me off. And I like how the lava disappeared the moment I grabbed that missile expansion. As far as I know, this is like the only game in the series to have reserve tanks, and I don't quite understand why they never came back. Because these things are like super awesome in the sense that like, for the first few playthroughs or so, you're gonna have trouble, especially fighting Ridley because he's like the hardest boss in the game. And yet like reserve tanks kind of function like the fairies in Zelda, in that whenever you die, these things will happen to like revive whatever amount of reserve tanks you have. So, say I have 2 reserve tanks right now. I got one from the area. I got the super missiles early from. Oh Jesus, I fucked that up. I got a reserve tank from that area and also a reserve tank there. So, if I use, if I say, like for example, I die here and I have 2 reserve tanks on hand, I have 2 of my energy tanks refilled. As long as the auto functions on, which you can see over there in the top left corner. Anyhow, I'm going to save right here. And next time on Let's Play Super Metroid, we're going to get the speed booster and other things. So thank you guys for watching, and see you guys then.